My name is Emma Collins, 30 years old, and I never thought betrayal would come from the people who gave me life. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning in Denver, the kind of morning when the sun feels too honest. The hum of computers in my small tech office filled the silence as I stared at a new notification flashing across my phone. We're vacationing in Miami with your sister's family. We emptied the joint account. Haha. For a second, I thought it was a prank, then my heart misfired. I stared at the words, at the casual cruelty, at the haha that landed like a knife turned sideways. My hands went cold, but my face stayed still. I typed back 2 words, good luck, hit send, and forced my voice steady as I poured coffee for a visiting client. My hand trembled once, barely, before I pressed the cup into his palm. That account wasn't just money. It was the quiet proof of everything I'd sacrificed. Years of coding until my vision blurred. Nights when I slept under the desk because the servers couldn't. Every cent was a brick in a future I'd been building alone. And now it was gone, emptied by the people who'd once told me to work hard and do the right thing. 3 months earlier, I'd started noticing cracks. My startup was finally steady, new clients every month. But our family's joint account, the one meant for my parents' mortgage, was bleeding faster than it should. At first, I blamed interest adjustments. Then I saw the pattern. Withdrawals at odd hours, purchases labeled luxury car rental, oceanfront suites, airline Miami. My chest tightened. I called Dad. He answered cheerful, a little too cheerful, "Hey, Em. Just sending payments for the house." "The house," I repeated, scrolling through the transactions. "The one that's paid up till next month?" He laughed it off. "You worry too much. Family first, remember? Family first." I almost laughed too, but something inside me snapped awake instead. That night, I printed the statements. My kitchen table turned courtroom, ink, paper, silence. Each charge felt like a confession I hadn't been meant to see. By midnight, I knew. They weren't paying off a house, they were planning a vacation. I created a new folder on my laptop, Evidence, Private, and started saving screenshots. Every charge. Every date. Then I opened an old, muted family group chat. I hadn't checked it in months. There it was, Mom, Linda, typing about flights. My sister, Hannah, replying with emojis. "We'll use the house fund. Emma won't notice till it's gone." I felt my pulse behind my eyes, they didn't even hide it. That night I opened a new account at a different bank, transferred the business revenue, and froze every auto transfer to the joint fund. I wasn't going to be their personal savings account anymore. The next morning, I met Amira Patel, a lawyer I'd once shared a networking panel with. Sharp. Calm. The kind of person who sees through noise. I laid everything on her desk, statements, screenshots, my shaking hands. She skimmed through, eyebrows low. "This is misuse, Emma," she said. "Document everything. If they escalate, we can freeze it." Freeze it? Completely. But don't warn them. Let them walk into their own mess. For the first time in months, I felt something close to control. Days later, Dad called again. "We need another $2,000 for taxes." "Sure," I lied, "I'll check." Then I mailed a certified letter, through Amira, formally demanding transparency on the account. No return address. No room for denial. A week later, Mom texted me. "You're too busy with that little app. Leave the account to us." Little. They always made it sound small, my company, my choices, my voice. I didn't reply. Instead, I logged into the bank's portal, reported the shared credit card as compromised, and canceled it outright. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed again. "Dad, what did you do?" "We're stuck at the airport." I let the silence breathe. The first breath of freedom often sounds like nothing at all. That night, I sat on my balcony, Denver lights glittering below like a motherboard. I opened my laptop, renamed my main project folder Fortress, and worked till sunrise. I was done being polite. The next week, I filed an official complaint through the bank's fraud department. Amira prepped a temporary account freeze petition and warned me it could get ugly. "I'm fine with ugly," I said. "I'm tired of polite." The call came at lunch. "Hannah," voice sharp enough to cut tin, "why would you do this to us?" "Do what?" "Cancel our cards. We were stranded. Because you used my money. It's family money." "No," I said. "It was respect. And you spent that too." She hung up mid-sentence. By evening, I'd gathered every proof imaginable, bank records, chats, hotel bookings. I saved it all to a secure drive hidden in my office safe. The story leaked faster than I'd expected. Denver's startup world is small. Gossip travels on caffeine. Within a week, people were whispering. A barista at my regular coffee shop slipped me a free latte. "Heard what's going on. You'll win." That same day, Carter and Pine Bakery signed a yearly contract for my inventory app. "You built something honest," their owner said. "Keep it that way." I smiled through exhaustion. Sometimes integrity has better marketing than luck. Online, Hannah doubled down. She posted a photo, ocean view, sunglasses, caption "family first." The comments roasted her alive. "Didn't your sister pay for that? Hope the weather's worth the lawsuit." I screenshotted everything. Evidence wasn't just documents, it was the mirror they'd built themselves. Amira called that night. "You're ready," she said. "The court will take this seriously." I believed her. For the first time, I believed in justice as something that could exist outside movies. Then the phone rang again. "Aunt Marjorie, your mother says you're blowing things out of proportion." "Did she also tell you she drained my savings?" Silence. Then, "I didn't know." I sent her a screenshot. The chat where Mom bragged, "She won't notice till it's gone." Aunt Marjorie exhaled like she'd swallowed glass. "I'll talk to her." By Monday morning, the bank freeze went through. Dad's tone turned from arrogance to disbelief. "How could you do this to your own family?" "I learned it from my family," I said, then hung up. Amira scheduled the hearing for the following week. I didn't cry. I built it. My team had no idea what storms swirled behind their CEO. They just saw the company grow, new clients, smoother updates, a silent confidence that came from not waiting for approval anymore. Monday arrived with a sky the color of printer paper, and my name felt heavier than it looked on the calendar invite. I parked 2 blocks from the courthouse because I needed the walk, needed to remind my legs they belonged to me. The air had a thin bite to it. I counted storefronts, florist, tailor, a diner already steaming up its windows, like mile markers on a road I'd chosen to walk even if it meant walking alone. Inside the Denver County Courthouse, the hall smelled like wood polish and the quiet fear of people who lied and were about to be told so. Amira met me at the security line, navy suit pressed sharp enough to slice through a bad argument. She didn't say, "Are you ready?" She looked at me like the world was a fact and not a suggestion. I nodded anyway. We sat at the plaintiff's table. I slid my folder closer, tabs like small flags, statements. Timeline. Social posts. Certified letters. The clerk called the case, and for a second the sound of my name in a stranger's mouth made me want to stand and explain everything to everyone all at once, to say I hadn't meant to make it this far, that I'd only ever wanted love and a fair ledger. Then the judge entered, and the room became the kind of quiet that keeps secrets shivering in their seats. Amira rose first. Her voice didn't rise, it landed. She traced a story that had taken me months to collect and 2 minutes to ruin: joint account, mortgage fund, unauthorized withdrawals mapped against flights, hotels, a convertible rental that looked good in sunset photos but worse in bank printouts. She laid the chat where my mother wrote, "We'll use the house fund," and my sister replied, "Emma won't notice till it's gone." The judge read that little "won't" longer than any other word, as if he were weighing it for truth like a jeweler eyes a stone. Dad tried thunder. He always had a pocket full of it. "It's a family account. We're family." Amira didn't look at him. She held up the signed memo that described the account's purpose. Mortgage, taxes, maintenance. Not personal vacations, she said, and the judge nodded like gravity. Mom leaned into the microphone as if a softer voice could reshape a hard fact. "She always said she'd help," she offered, palms open. "The performance of generosity, in writing?" the judge asked. Silence, one of those deep, slow silences that makes you hear the buzz of a fluorescent light 3 rooms away. Hannah stood too quickly and called me jealous. The gavel answered, not angry, just definite. "Sit." She sat. Her chair squeaked like a guilty thing. Amira clicked to the timeline we'd printed big enough for the back row to see: withdrawal, booking, withdrawal, upgrade, withdrawal, condo deposit, withdrawal, The judge didn't change expression, but his eyes kept lining the dates up with a care that made me think of people who build ships in bottles. Patient hands. Exact hands. Hands that know everything has to fit the shape it claims it fits. When the judge spoke, it wasn't the movie moment where violins make you cry. It was better, it was boring in a way that means safe. Assets linked to the joint account are frozen, effective immediately. A full audit is ordered. $7,000 shall be repaid to Ms. Collins within 24 hours pending further findings. Counsel, prepare an order. Gavel. Done. A simple sound, like a nail tapped home so the board sits flush, so the door closes the way doors should. We filed out, and the hallway gave everyone back their volume. Dad muttered something about betrayal as if the word were a coat he could throw over me and walk away warmer. Mom tugged Hannah's sleeve and said my name the way you say a thing you're sure will come back if you call it sweetly enough. I kept moving. Amira touched my shoulder, not to guide me, just to remind me I wasn't a ghost. Outside, the sun had decided against mercy and tried honesty instead. I stood a minute and let the light find my face. Then I texted Wendy, "Done." She sent back a string of confetti that made my eyes sting. I blinked hard, because sometimes you need your vision more than your tears. That afternoon, the order hit. The bank confirmed the freeze. The repayment registered as pending with a note that smelled like compliance and looked like a screen I took a screenshot of for later. Not victory, record. Fallout moves quickly when the lines were drawn slowly. A neighbor messaged me a photo of the Chevelle with a for sale sign propped in its windshield. The listing blurb called it beloved. I thought about the word, how we use it to bless things we also use to hurt other people with. A jeweler friend texted a picture of a pendant that looked like Mom's. "Came in today," she wrote. I kept my face neutral. I texted back a heart because sometimes empathy isn't agreement, it's witness. Hannah posted a last sunset video and then went dark. Robert's name drifted around town in sentences that ended with, "We'll pass for now." A realtor who used to greet me at holiday dinners with a backhanded compliment about my hair looked through me in the produce section like I'd learned invisibility magic. I didn't hate it. The spells I was learning suited me. Meanwhile, work was a river and I stepped into it gladly. Carter and Pine added a second location on South Broadway and needed our dashboard to talk to an aging POS system that threw tantrums if you looked at it wrong. We wrote a shim and named it Olivabranch as a joke, then kept the name because it behaved. A gym installed our membership tracking and told me the daily spreadsheet ritual felt like a bad dream they weren't having anymore. We shipped a tiny microcopy change in the onboarding flow that swapped "you must" for "let's," and churn nudged down like a curtain falling without fuss. Kindness in sentences. Mercy in clicks. The sort of product decision that sounds small until it lets someone breathe. I kept expecting an aftershock, a knock, a call, a dramatic apology or a dramatic rage. But drama likes an audience, and I had walked off that stage. There were emails to answer, a backlog to prune, a process doc to write so Jada could stop asking permission to fix things she was already right about. There was a city to live in, the good coffee on 17th, the bookstore where the staff picks have hand-drawn stars, the way Union Station glows at 6 p.m. like a wedding that knows how not to brag. A week later, an envelope arrived addressed in my mother's hand. I carried it to the kitchen and set it down like it might spill if I breathed too hard. I made tea. I cleaned a counter that was already clean. Then I opened it. The letter smelled like a candle shop and said I had misunderstood her heart. It said pressure makes people do things. It said family is complicated, as if that were a revelation. It did not say, we were wrong. It did not say, we took what you trusted us with and we laughed while we did it. It did not say, I am sorry, without a comma and a but. I read it once and something inside me didn't break, it unhooked. I fed the letter to the shredder and listened to the neat sound of paper becoming smaller than its sentences. At the end of the month, the audit report landed. Clean, on my side. Messy, on theirs. Amira called with the tone you use when you're giving someone medicine that works. We can pursue more, she said. But we don't have to. What do you recommend? That you do what gives you back the most time, she said, and I loved her then for choosing hours over vengeance. I chose time. 2 seasons spun past like clean edits, autumn to winter to the kind of spring Denver does well, with mornings that forgive your coat by noon. We released a scheduling feature that made delivery routes look like someone had finally tidied a drawer. A local magazine did a profile and caught me mid-laugh in the photo. My hair looked like I hadn't tried too hard. In the piece, the writer quoted me saying, "Boundaries are love pointed inward," and I worried it sounded like a bumper sticker. But my inbox filled with people who said they had been waiting to hear it out loud so they would be allowed to believe it. Wendy became my co-founder officially, though she'd been it unofficially since the night she made me eat fries instead of Fury. She moved her laptop into the office and taped a post-it to her monitor that read, "Clarity Drama." We hired a support lead who taught us that the fastest reply to a confused customer is, "This is on us," and churn dipped further like a second curtain falling without anyone tripping on it. I didn't see my parents. I did see evidence of them, the way you see a storm in downed branches and uneven light. I saw the lawn at the old house go long then neat then long again, like financial weather. I saw their names drop off the homeowners association minutes a neighbor forwarded me accidentally on purpose with a note, "Thought you'd want to see." I didn't, but I read it anyway. Then I archived it in a folder called, "Not My Job." I thought that might be the end of it, no fireworks, just a steady dimming. Life doesn't owe you an epilogue. You write your own, or you leave the page blank. But closure sometimes prefers linoleum floors and fluorescent lighting to sunsets. It was a Tuesday because of course it was. I'd promised Wendy I would not skip lunch, so I went to a supermarket on my way back from a meeting near City Park. My basket held yogurt, raspberries, a pack of sticky notes, and a bag of coffee I didn't need but liked the smell of. The checkout line was long. A woman ahead of me dropped a can, and it rolled under a display of granola bars. I bent to catch it as it bumped my sneaker, and when I stood up I saw her. Mom. Linda. No makeup. No armor. She wore a cardigan I remember from a Thanksgiving before we had the language for disappointment. She was putting exact change in the cashier's palm with both hands as if handing over a baby bluebird. Her hair looked like humidity had been arguing with it and winning. My body made choices before my mind caught up. My breath went quiet. My knees did that small, hollow theater tremble that means, "We could leave if you wanted." I did not leave. She turned because the human brain is a miracle of pattern recognition, and mine is part hers. Our eyes met, and I watched in real time as a woman rearranged her face to fit a past that wouldn't fit back. Emma, she said. Not a question. Not an apology. Just the word you use when you've been caught dreaming of a version of your daughter you haven't earned. Hi, Mom, I said, and the word landed in me like a penny in a fountain. It didn't grant a wish. It made a small, true sound, and the water kept being water. She looked at my basket like it could tell her how successful I was at being okay. You look thin, she said, defaulting to a language we used when we didn't know how to say what mattered. I'm fine, I said. How are you? She made a shape with her mouth that wanted to be brave. Things have been tight. I heard, I said, and realized it was true even though no one had said the exact sentence. Denver talks. It had told me. The cashier asked if I wanted paper or plastic, and my mother said, paper, in the tone she used when she wanted to seem principled. The bag split while he lifted it, and 2 apples fell toward the floor like choices you can't catch. I bent and picked one up. She picked up the other. We stood, each holding something round that would bruise if you looked at it wrong. I wrote you, she said, as if the presence of verbs could be swapped for their contents. I know, I said. I read it. I didn't say everything right, she said, and there was the first true thing. No, I said. You didn't. Silence came and sat between us, not hungry, not angry, just present. We shared a quiet I used to beg for in our house and never got. I miss you, she said finally, and there it was, the line people believe is a bridge when it's often a net. I miss who I thought you were, I said gently, because there are ways to hurt people you love accidentally and I wasn't interested in that sport anymore. She flinched. Then she steadied. We were scared, she said. About money. About getting old. About losing the house. You used my fear to feed yours, I said. I was scared too. I could see the flash in her eyes, the one that always meant defense was recruiting arguments. It passed. She breathed in the way a person breathes when the sentence they're about to say might loosen something rusted. I was wrong, she said. We were wrong. The word wrong looked new in her mouth, like a piece of jewelry she hadn't thought suited her and now realized had been meant for her all along. I'm not coming back, I said, not as punishment, as parameters. I know, she said, and I believed her in the specific way you believe a dog not to talk. It felt simple, and that simplicity felt like mercy. She shifted the bag on her hip. You always were the strong one, she tried, and I shook my head. I wasn't, I said. I just stopped pretending I could survive your story. She looked at the floor. The tile needed mopping. The line behind us was a sound I refused to call impatient. It was people living, which is noisy. Do you hate me? She asked, and there it was, the need that makes children into accountants of their parents' self-worth. No, I said, and meant it. But I don't offer you access to prove it. She nodded. She was smart enough to know the shape of that sentence. She looked older than she had in the courtroom, smaller, yes, but also less arranged. The arrangement had been the problem. This felt more like a person. I am sorry, she said, this time without a comma or a but. Thank you, I said, and my whole body felt the grammar of forgiveness. You can accept an apology like a receipt, documented, filed, without returning the item. We stood a heartbeat longer within arm's reach of a version of our life that would not be selected. Then she touched my sleeve, 2 fingers, barely, and said, take care, Em. She used the nickname she gave me before I learned what it means to carry someone else's hope. It didn't stab. It scratched a doorframe I'd already sanded down. You too, I said. Really? I left first because I always had and because I wasn't ashamed of walking away anymore. In the parking lot, I put my forehead on the steering wheel and let 3 slow breaths find their exits. There were no tears. Not because I had none left, because I had used them and they had paid for something I could keep. Back at the office, Wendy had a bag of pretzels and a look that could sense weather in my face. You saw them, she said, not asking which one, not asking for details. I said. The fluorescent lights kind of saw us too. How was it? Like closing a tab I didn't know was still open, I said, and she nodded like a person who knows software and grief are sometimes the same system. We launched the AI scheduling beta that week and watched the first 10 clients slice 36 minutes off their day. 36 minutes. Do you know what a person can do with that? Pick up a child earlier. Sit in a parked car and finish a song. Stir a pot with both hands instead of one because the other is holding a phone. Go for a walk where the first 10 minutes are just the body remembering it's a body. Time is a kingdom, we tax it thoughtlessly. I wanted my software to be a small refund. The city sent an email asking if we'd speak at a Built in Denver event. I wrote notes on index cards because slides felt too rehearsed for something I wanted to say like a conversation. On stage, I told the story without the names, just the frame, that you can do everything right by somebody else's rules and still get emptied. That the only part you control is the lock on your own door. That the door isn't the problem, the pretending is. People came up after with eyes that had been carrying something heavy and were now making calculations. How much would it weigh if I put it down? What would my hands be free to hold? One of them was a woman in a blue dress who said, "My mother calls me when she needs something and says she misses me when I say no." I said, "I know that song," and she exhaled a laugh that wasn't a laugh. "What did you do?" she asked. "I changed the lyrics," I said. I kept the melody for myself. Amira came to the office with almond croissants, because some lawyers practice a hospitality that keeps you from thinking all law is hunger. She handed me a final letter with the audit's conclusion and the phrase, "No further action," underlined. "Put it somewhere you don't look," she said. "You don't need it to know it's true." I filed it under backbone anyway, not because I needed it, but because I believe in redundancies. They are the paper angels of the anxious. I drove past the old house exactly once more. The porch had a new swing. A child had drawn suns in chalk on the walk that weren't round so much as radiant. Someone had planted herbs under the kitchen window, and I imagined rosemary in dinner and a hand flicking water off basil leaves onto a cutting board. The life of a house does not care about the drama it has hosted. It wants to be lived in by whoever will live in it. That felt like the sanest thing I'd learned in a year. We are not possessions, we are places. People either live gently with us, or they don't get a key. 2 years slid into 3 the way good code slides into production, after tests, with attention, in daylight. We mentored a group of high school girls from the west side on Saturdays. Wendy taught them command line like it was a spell that could open secret doors. Jada ran a bug bash where every fix earned a sticker that said, "Fixed with joy," and my chest hurt in a way I didn't resist. We funded an internship named after my grandmother, the one who showed me how to make pancakes and sit with quiet like it was a pet worth feeding. On the anniversary of the courthouse day, I woke before my alarm and went for a run along the river. The sky was still deciding itself. A heron stood so still it made me think of prayer. I thought about the word revenge, how it had once hummed in my blood like a neon sign that didn't know how to turn off. It had been turned down to a pilot light now, a small flame that only came up when I needed to remember heat is possible. Justice had shifted, too, from a verdict to a rhythm. Protect. Build. Rest. Repeat. The ceremony of a sane life. Sometimes people online accuse stories like mine of being made up, because they can't imagine parents doing that or daughters surviving it. I don't argue. I let the bakery's second location be my counterpoint. I let the gym's drop-in cancellations say the thing I don't want to say again. I let a screenshot of our uptime chart sing the chorus. The opposite of, haha, is not a clapback, it is duration. Hannah texted once more after many months, a number with no contact name because I had decided not to label that chapter. Mom is not well, it said, and the space after the words felt calculated. I called Aunt Marjorie and asked. She's fine, she said. She had the flu and got dramatic. We laughed, and it wasn't cruel. It was a laugh that understands patterns and chooses not to be tripped by them. I sent a card anyway, white, simple, with my name printed small and the sentence, "Take care of yourself," inside, because I won't hold hatred for the rest of my life. I don't have that much hand left. Closure is never a door slam. It's the absence of your hand on the knob. One afternoon, delivering laptops to the mentorship site, I stopped at Union Station and bought a coffee from a barista who knows my order. As I turned, a couple in their 70s bumped my arm and apologized twice. The woman's scarf was the same pattern as one my mother used to wear. For a second, my body prepared for contact. Then the woman smiled in a way my mother never had, without a ledger behind it, and I smiled back so fully that the barista shook his head later and said, "Good news?" "Just, good," I said, and wrapped a palm around the warm cup like I'd earned it, because I had. Wendy likes to say that our company is built on 3 pillars: stubborn empathy, dignified speed, and zero tolerance for gaslighting. We wrote them on the wall in vinyl letters that made Jada roll her eyes affectionately. "You're going to make me believe in posters," she said, and then she did, because we kept not contradicting them. I don't know if my parents will ever be the kind of people you can hold grief with the way you hold a fragile bowl: open palms, careful steps, forgiveness of slips. I do know the shape of my own hands better now. I know the weight limits. I know which bowls are mine to carry. When I say family, I say Wendy's name without hesitation. I say Jada's. I say Carter and Pine like a joke because a bakery that feeds the city is a cousin of my heart. I say the names of girls who lift their hands in Saturday class and ask, "What does this error mean?" with the hunger I used to save for trying to be loved enough to be safe. And sometimes, late, when the office is only the sound of the HVAC and a mouse clicking far away, I open the secure drive and look at the folder called Backbone. I don't open any files. I just look at the folder name and close the window. Not to rehearse pain. To honor proof. Proof is not a cudgel. It is a candle you no longer need to carry but still keep in a drawer for storms. If you are listening and the people who taught you what love was supposed to look like are also the ones who taught you to drain yourself for the privilege of staying near them, breathe. Walk outside and count storefronts if that steadies you. Find one person who doesn't require you to explain your worth before you sit down. Move your money if your money is the leash they tug. Document the truth. Ask the law to be a wall you can put your back against. Expect to be called cold, cruel, ungrateful, words people fling when the vending machine stops vending. Turn down the volume on those words. Turn up the one that says, yours. That word will not make you lonely, it will make room. Revenge will want your steering wheel. Give it the horn instead. Use it when you need to signal, short, sharp, but don't let it decide your route. If you must taste it, taste the version that is simply living well without their hands on your pockets or your pulse. The crispness of a morning you paid for yourself. The quiet of a home without interrogation marks. The laughter you don't owe anyone a receipt for. On the day our mentorship girls demoed their projects, one built a budgeting app for teens whose parents borrow their allowance. I stood in the back and watched. She presented with a calm that made my ribs ache. Documentation is love, she said when someone asked why her README was so good. I clapped too loud. Wendy elbowed me and then clapped louder. After, I walked out into late light and my phone buzzed. It was a photo from Carter and Pine, a tray of croissants and a handwritten note, "For Emma plus team, thanks for giving us back our mornings." I sat on the curb and laughed, big and messy. The kind of laugh that has a line of tears underneath it only because the body sometimes forgets how to sort liquids. A kid scootered past and looked at me like grown-ups were peculiar. I waved. He waved back with his whole arm like a flag. The next morning, I woke to a text from an unknown number. Not my mother. Not my sister. Someone I'd never met who had read the profile, who had found our website, who had pulled a thread and discovered we had been stitching a net under ourselves this whole time. It said, "My father emptied the account I made for my daughter's school." I thought I had to choose family or self-respect. You reminded me the choice is family and self-respect, or it isn't family. Thank you. I typed and erased and typed again, then sent, "I'm so sorry that happened. You are not alone. Here's a resource list that helped me," and added a link we'd made because helping one person once is kindness, helping 100 with the same keystrokes is stewardship. I still dream sometimes. Not the text. A different one. In it, I'm at a long table under a string of lights in a yard I don't recognize but know in my bones. People I love are passing plates. My mother is there, but she is quiet, eating what is in front of her with respect. She does not ask to take mine. She does not slip anything into her purse. When I wake, I do not call her. I make coffee and water the plant I keep forgetting the name of. I respond to customer support threads and code reviews and Jada's joke about how all bugs should be named after Greek monsters. I send an invoice that doesn't apologize for existing. I sit a minute with sunlight on my knees and think, this is the table I meant. The one with lights. The one where the rules are simple and therefore possible. Don't take what isn't yours. Tell the truth. Clean as you go. Pass the bread. If you needed this story to have a lesson, take this one. Love that requires you to be less to stay is not love. If you needed it to have a map, take this. Document, protect, ask, build, rest, repeat. If you needed it to have permission, take mine. You are allowed to lock doors kindly. You are allowed to say no, like a person who knows the worth of their yes. You are allowed to leave the stage where you only ever got applause for bleeding. And if you needed it to end in a grocery store with 2 bruisable apples in 2 bruisable hands, take that, too. The fluorescent lights do not flatter anyone. They do not lie, either. Under them, 2 women told the truth as best they could that day. It was not a reunion. It was not revenge. It was a receipt. Paid, by both of us, in the currencies we had left. Thank you for listening. If this story settled somewhere in you, softly or like a thud, tell me one boundary you wish you'd set sooner, and the one you'll set today. And if you know someone who needs proof that saying, no, can be the first rescue, send this their way.